Hey everyone, so I'm sorry we didn't have time to go over this in class. Looking at all of your sketches took longer than I expected, but everybody did a really good job and had some interesting ideas, I think, for the layout. So I think this was worth it. But yeah, so I'm sending you this video on top so you can go through and figure out the next steps from this. Okay, so just to start off, here's the assignment. So you're gonna do 5 spreads in InDesign, and I would say if you're overwhelmed and I want you to really focus on finding the typography, the correct type first. So I want you to spend time on that. If you end up doing 4 spreads and one that's more of like a beginning spread, that's okay. Like an idea for a 5th spread or a sketch. I really want you to refine kind of your type first. That's the most important thing so that you have a really strong concept going forward. But just to give you a sense, so you're doing based on the drawings that you all made, the sketches, you're gonna go and turn these into designed in InDesign versions. So if I look here, for example, if I were Melissa and I got the feedback that everybody suggests is this one, I would say that's interesting. Is that what I want? Or do I really feel strongly about idea 2? I want you all to have the freedom to choose what you want, but also it's interesting to see what people recommend because that could help you decide based on that. So the first thing you want to do is refine your type based on what I said. And I'm sorry that I think that I should have been more tough on not using Adobe fonts at the beginning because it's just harder to know which ones are good. So based on the feedback you got, I want you all to try and refine finding the correct font. So some of you had done this process, some of you hadn't yet. So what I would do is command click on this list of free/trial fonts so that you can kind of have them all as tabs. And as you go through, you can close them. That's what I would recommend. So it gives you a lot of tabs, but I think it's worth it. So here you can quickly see like, okay, does this match what I had in mind? Does this match what I had in mind? Go back to your kind of what you were going with, and that might help you decide. And if you're kind of hesitating between a couple fonts, that's still okay at this stage, right? You can try going into InDesign and seeing, oh, I don't like it. Let me try something else. So this is the moment when you start to really play with how does it actually look in my layout? Because some of you might have had ideas as a sketch, but then when you go through and realize it doesn't actually work, that can happen sometimes. So you see how here I'm on Klim Type Foundry. I see this one. There's a test version. So you just put your email and they'll give you the test font. So what I would say is all of you should find a display font that is from one of these. And a display means that's what your large type is going to be. And then you can have smaller type that's kind of the areas in the text that isn't made bold, that aren't made bold. That can be a more simple font. So something that you could find from Adobe or even Universe. I had given this whole, if you go back into the modules, I'll put student view. You can see that initially I had given a package called fonts to install that when you open, okay, these were the ones that I recommended from Adobe, that a lot of them you could use for the kind of smaller font. This one is interesting potentially for a large, so some of them work better than others. And then there was also a typography fonts that I gave that also had some good options there that you could actually install. So I'll keep working with you and refining, so don't panic. You can keep going, but I definitely want you to figure out the kind of bigger fonts for this next week. So yeah, the kind of hero, big, bold, a lot of design ideas include very big bold, so you want something that's really going to stand out, and then having that preset helps your design really work. So, there's a lot of really nice ones on here. I think like Chandler had one that looked similar to this, but this is like kind of a more refined contemporary version. So I encourage you all to go in here and spend a lot of time or some time to really refine what font you're going to use. It's going to be a huge core element of your design, right? Okay, so now let's say we've done that. Another thing to do, okay, sorry, backing up, but like one thing you can do is download 5 of them, and then when you're in InDesign, try putting your word, data is our intensity, in all of them. That way you have a sense of what it looks like. So I'm going to create a new document just to give you an idea of what that looks like. I'll go over this again. So here I could go and put this sentence, data is our intensity, and I'm going to highlight it. So just double click and highlight it. Then I'm going to go on in my type that I've chosen. And I'm going to duplicate it. So I hold Option on my keyboard and then I drag, which duplicates it. And then I would try, my other idea, right? I don't like this one, but just for the sake of this. And I would test it out with 4 or 5 options, so that gives you a sense of how does it feel to use this font, right? They all have a very different feeling that may or may not work for your design concept. So that would be kind of the first step to figuring out what the font should be. Okay, so then next part of this assignment is making spreads. I'm going to close this out. And I wrote this all in here in the assignment. So you have 2 parts. One is doing visual research. I just want you to be adding to the Are.Na channel a little bit. So you can use the inspiration sites in here that I've listed a while ago. Here, inspiration sites. Again, command click and you open all the tabs so you can see a little bit pretty quickly everything that's available. Click around. And just look through them, and everybody add 4 to 5 images to our Are.Na manifesto layout board. I think you all know how to do that now, but you see some of these. I think Isabel had a layout that had some of this going on in there. So before you design, look at things. It's always very inspirational to do so. Someone had this idea of removing the inside of the letters, the counter. So this is a beautiful example of that. So go through these inspiration sites that I linked, and go through and find 4 or 5 things that you think really work and that kind of remind you of your idea for your layout. So this is a good way to do it. You can also, within Are.Na itself, so if I click on, again, over here, if I click on the Are.Na channel that you're all in, I can also go up here and do search Are.Na. And if you just search editorial layout, here there's channels, blocks, people. So in channels, there's other people who have made channels named editorial that you can click on and see what they had. So I do command click so that I can keep it as a new tab. Otherwise, it overrides what I had, and I can see what this person liked. And if I find something that I think, oh yeah, this really makes sense, I would click connect and add it to our editorial layout. So I'll just do that because why not, right? So I want you to start by looking at things. Remind yourself how awesome graphic design can be, how awesome making a layout like this can be. So it kind of is, it's good to be inspired when you start working. If you go on blocks, you can also just see like anything that's related that people have posted and see if any of these resonate with you. So this one's like a really tall, skinny book, right? Someone, I think Melissa, I can't remember who it was, had an idea for that. So that could really work for for inspiring you for your design. So spend some time doing that. And then once you've posted to our Are.Na, you can go back to the assignment. And the next part is designing. So to design your book, you are going to use the piece in here in the manifesto text. As you remember, there was 3 different pieces. We're going to start with this one. And so you're going to start with this. So don't worry about doing a cover for your book yet. We're just starting with layout design. So you're starting with this text, and then as you can see, as a general rule, each spread should have 3 to 5 lines of text. So again, using your sketches, and then use type and negative space in an expressive way. I think a lot of you are already far along with that idea. So the way you set the type on the page should emphasize its meaning and follow your design concept. So again, this is just repeating what you've been doing. And then you can use type, glyphs, I'll show that, and then basic shapes like I said today, like circles, squares. But using just type is actually probably enough. You don't need to decorate so much. So you already have a lot of really strong ideas, a lot of you, with just using the type. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of show the basic ways that how I would go about doing this. So here I am in InDesign. I would go create new, and then using your kind of general idea for your book size. So if some of you aren't totally sure, you can go back to Mixam, which is the place that I'm recommending everybody print at, and get a sense for what they have. And you can kind of see, like, okay, if I wanted to try 6 by 8.25, again, this is for 100 copies, so it would be a lot cheaper. But 6 by 8.25, you could get a sense of what that looks like this way. But the best way would be to look at actual books that you have in your house and get a sense for, measure them with a ruler and say, oh, I like this, or I don't like this. So having it in your hand helps you decide, like, oh, this is a size that I think would work for my idea. So here I just did this for now because I don't have a book that I'm doing right now. And then you really want to make sure that you're using facing pages in this case, so opposite to what we were doing with the poster. So I'm clicking facing pages, and then I'm just going to hit create. Okay, so when I have create, here I am with my layout, my setup. I'm going to go over here and make sure I have typography. I'll just do reset typography so I know I have it. So go over window, workspace, typography. That basically makes it more of an advanced specifically for use in typography. So now when you have this, imagine your book, this would be the cover, right? So we're not designing the cover, we're going straight to the spreads. So I'm going over here in pages, and down here where there's this little plus sign, create a new page. I'm clicking that, and that creates spreads. Okay, so we're making 4 to 5 spreads to begin with. So now I have them all here. So now we already have worked within InDesign. I think a lot of you know kind of how to work it by now. But let's say, this margin is quite big. So if I want my type to go all the way to the edge, I might refine that. So if you wanted to change your margin size, you go back over here to File and then Document Setup, and you can make the margins smaller or larger. In general, I think having a smaller margin, I'm clicking preview to make sure I see what I'm doing. I think that just gives you more space to work with. You want to have a margin, obviously. You don't want text to go all the way to the edge or it will get cut off. So, 0.25 is a pretty good margin size, but it could depend on what your concept is. Okay, so here's my kind of general layout. Then remember we were using grids already. So I'm going to show you, again, you could use the same concept of grids to organize where your type is sitting. So here if I go here on this page and I do the same process of layout, create guides, I could do that here. And it's applying to both of them because I selected both of them here. Right, I could do that here, but if I hit OK, then the next spread doesn't have it. So I'm going to undo, and I'm going to show you master pages. So over here, on top of this area, there's the master page area. So if you double click on it, and I'm selecting both. So if you click on the right page and then hold Shift and click on the left page, you've got both of them selected. And then I go layout to create guides, same as before. So I'm gonna make the gutter a little smaller so it's a little less space between each of my lines, and make a bunch of columns. So this way, the more columns you have, the more places you can put your type. So it can be useful. Again, a lot of you are gonna break the grid probably, but it's nice to have a reference. So if I click OK here, let's say I did 9 rows, could even do 10 rows, and 8 columns seems good for my book size. And then I click OK. Now, because I did this in my master pages, all these pages have the master page applied to them. So it's going to all of them at once. So it's very convenient. So you can see how on each of these pages, there's a master, there's a little A. That means the A master has been applied to it. So this here, whatever you put in the master page, so if I were to draw like a squiggly line over here, that would apply to every single page. So we don't want that for now, but later on, if we want to add page numbers to our book, you would do that in the master page, because you can put an area where the page is automatically entered to all the pages of the book. Okay, so now I have kind of a basic setup. What do you do? Like, basically you go back to your sketches. Let's say we go to Andra's and she was doing passion, so maybe she starts basically thinking about her idea and thinking about how this text fits that idea. So I would go in and select my first sentence, copy it, and paste it in. And again, before doing this process, which you were supposed to do for last week, you want to go and highlight which words are going to be the words that you really want to focus on for making the words that the type's going to be large for. So let's see, where do I do that? I'm just going to make them a neon color for now because I don't have a highlighter function on here that I can find right now. So I want, I'm reading through, maybe I say data is life, right? So everybody could have different words they choose to highlight to make large. So it could be, only intensity or just the word data. So people could have different choices of what they feel they want to highlight. Against and for. So maybe it's highlighting these contrasts. So again, you had done a lot of this work already in the original part of this assignment where people highlighted some of these sentences. Data is our intensity, right? So think of it as like what words, if I'm doing my layout here, my editorial layout, going back to our channel, a lot of times you can't highlight everything the same way, right? So if I'm looking at this layout here, right, there's only 2 words out of that whole sentence that were highlighted, or 1 word here, or here, a couple of words. So this is kind of that process of figuring out which words do I want to highlight. So then once you've, I could say data is our intensity, and I just start putting that in here. So let's say I chose one of this crazy, no, not this. Let's say I chose this mighty slab, just because I haven't, it's very large. And I start using my type to create this layout. So I could say, I'm going to cut it up. Again, I don't know, I'm not doing this as for real because I'm not doing, I don't have like you all have sketches to work from, I don't. So I could say, I'm just going to go up to 2 columns, or something. You could have a grid where there's tons of lines and just kind of gives you a general framework. It doesn't have to be, I don't want you to feel restricted by this grid, but data is our intensity or whatever. So you could start with this and then put data is life. So figure out kind of, what do you want your book to feel like? How many words per sentence? So you can make things really big. One quick way to do that is pull. So hold Shift and Command and then hold the edge, and that pulls it and makes it a lot bigger. So that's a quick way to do that. So I could go, put it here. Okay, I'm not following my grid at all, so that tells me this grid is not working. So I go and I could go like this, and then, data, it looks like dad A, so that maybe wouldn't work. So, start creating your layout. And you can use the grids and you can realize, oh, my grid isn't working. So you can then go back and refine it based on what you find you actually need for your layout. So for now, freeform and then come back and create a grid afterwards. I don't want you to feel like stifled by the grid, but I just want you to know you would do it over here. So potentially just start with drawing, in a freeform way, and then go from there. The last couple things I want to show are how to do type on a line, just in case. I know some people wanted that. So here I'm going on the left hand and doing a line tool, and I can go, draw it, and you don't see it because there's 0 points here. So I add a point, then I can see it. Then I take my type tool, and if you hold click, you could see type on a path is below type tool. And then when I hover above the line, it creates this little plus sign, which I can click. And then when I pasted what I had, which is our intensity, I would go ahead and do that. And again, I could do another line over here, using a grid, and copy this little plus sign. That's where it's broken. I think if I click on the line, no, it didn't work. So it can be difficult. You might have to do it one word at a time. So again, going on my line that I have created, holding type on a path tool, and then, intensity. So you want to do it this way, and then once you're done with kind of how you want it to feel, you can click on both of them and remove the 1 point here, so your line is no longer visible. So it's just your design. You can make it big. So basically, you're kind of trying to create how does it feel for your design to actually work. So spend time. It can feel scary at the beginning, but it's okay. That's part of the design process. There's a lot of ups and downs. It can be difficult, but already just having like a font, something that keeps it together, can work really well to make it feel like a whole. So again, then you could have your secondary sentence that's like, decide if you decided you wanted just all of this. I don't know. I'm not reading it right now, but if you wanted a secondary sentence that's less important than the first one that you decided was very important, and I could use one of these GT fonts that we saw earlier today, and then those could be, in a contrasting or less important in the hierarchy, another font style. Does that make sense? So here I go. I'm just putting it in here. So how does that relate to this bigger text? So if my A was aligned on a grid, I could say, okay, here's the other text comes here, and I might have to fine tune how big the type is to see how it fits my grid, right? So this could be a simple kind of layout. Again, I'm not doing it as refined as you will, because you're going to be working off of your sketches. It's just to give you a sense of how to do these things. You can also do more freeform. I know some of you wanted to do that. So the pen tool, I don't know if you know how to use it. It allows you to click between two areas, and then when you pull, it starts to make curves. So then if I click again over here, it's making a curve. It's kind of difficult to control. If any of you want to use it, please let me know. I can teach you, give you videos to teach you how to do it. And then again, same idea. I'm just doing type on a line after I've done it. So here's my longer paragraph on like a wiggly line. There's also this pencil tool that you can use, which is even more free form, but sometimes not great. Sometimes it's good, but you know, sometimes here like it breaks the type, so you have to go and refine. So I'm adding space or something that allows you to refine the type. Okay, so those are the basic things. Oh, and a couple more things, sorry. This rectangle tool, so if I wanted to have that, I could just draw a rectangle and then fill it with color, right? Same thing with, if I hold, I can get circle tool. So I'm just drawing the circle, but then if you hold shift, it maintains its kind of proportion, so it becomes a circle instead of a random oval. And then, you know, we're just doing that basically. Triangles are more difficult to do for some reason. You have to draw them like one line at a time. We're using the pen tool. So if you want to do a triangle, I can help you if you need more. But those are kind of the basic things that I think you need for this first part of the project. Let me know if there's other things you want me to show. And I will record another video as soon as I can. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.